friends, welcome to My Money, My Purpose. If you're new here, my name is Allie, I'm the saver, and we talk all about personal finance and just living a well-balanced, stress-free life. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, then hit subscribe and definitely hit the notification bell so you don't miss one of our uploads. So in today's video, I wanted to create kind of a cozy, festive environment. I've got my cozy green sweater on, some Christmas blankets, a nice hot coffee, and I figured we could take this time to reflect on 2023 and talk about our goals for 2024. So let's get started. Okay, so for 2023, let's start with our finance goals. So I only put one major finance goal for 2023, which was to save up a down payment for a house. So at the beginning of the year, we had decided that we wanted to save $50,000, and we came up with that number by kind of looking at the houses on the market, figuring out what we would be able to afford. But when we set this goal at the beginning of the year, we knew that it was going to be a very lofty goal to achieve. I went into the year with that target in mind, but about halfway through the year, when we were reevaluating our finances, we realized that it wasn't realistic for us to save up the $50,000. When I last checked my budget, we were at around $28,700. So I did just want to point out for this one that it's okay if you make adjustments to your goals throughout the year. So like I said, this goal started at $50,000 and I adjusted it down to $30,000 based on the actual year and the things that were going on. So don't feel like you have to keep any goals that you set in January if they're not serving you. And it's okay if we don't check off every single goal that we set for ourselves. These are really to just kind of give us a guideline throughout the year and make sure that the things that are important to us are happening. So the next category that I set goals in is my career. So the first goal that I set was to get a raise and a promotion at my current 9-to-5 corporate job. So I did end up getting a promotion in September, and that came with a 10% raise. So I checked this one off and I was really excited about that. And then the second goal, I initially intended for this to be making $120,000 as my personal salary, which is not something that ended up happening this year. And to be honest, it was a lofty goal and I didn't really have a specific plan in place to hit this number. So like I said, I was looking to get a raise and that did happen. But as you can see, I did end up checking this off, and I wanted to kind of talk about the thought process there. So I actually spoke with Tab about this and we talked about, and I was kind of talking through like what my intention with this goal was. And she pointed out that when I wrote this goal down, I wasn't super specific. So I literally wrote down make $120,000. And I didn't say like where that money was coming from or who was earning that money. And so she pointed out that that could be interpreted as household income. And she asked me how much my husband and I make combined. And when I actually sat down to think about it, between my raise and his raise this year, we actually came out after tax to like 120 flat. So I wanted to put this in here because even though I didn't hit the goal that I intended in my head, it's kind of all about perspective. Honestly, sometimes I think it's better to shift your perspective and see something as a win rather than staying steadfast to what your original thought process was and counting it as a loss. So in this specific instance, I'm choosing to kind of take my sister's approach, look at it from the perspective of household income, and take this as a win rather than Xing it out and saying that it's something that I didn't accomplish, because it kind of depends on how you want to look at it. And then my third goal for my career was to start this YouTube channel. That was to just kind of push myself out of my comfort zone. To be honest, I'm really proud of myself for doing something that I wouldn't normally do and just seeing how it turns out. So the next category that I set goals in was personal development. So the first goal that I set was to read 6 nonfiction books. And as you can see, this goal is not checked off. So to be quite honest, I was pushing myself to read in a category that I don't normally read in. I'm not gonna push myself to try to read a specific category anymore. I'm just gonna read what I enjoy. And that way I'll be excited to read, because I found that this year, because I was pushing myself to read nonfiction, I just didn't read as much, and I would just try to find other things to do. And I'd rather keep that habit of reading, but just do it with something that I enjoy. So I'm not upset at myself at all for not accomplishing this goal. I'm gonna write this one off as something that I tried, that I just decided, you know what, that's not for me. And then my second personal development goal was to create a daily prayer routine. So something that I wanted to focus on last year was just growing in my spirituality, and I wanted to carve out periods of time in my day-to-day life to do that. So I do think that I've created a pretty good daily prayer routine now, and it's become much more of a habit and just a part of my day-to-day life. And I think that this has helped tremendously with my mental health. So the next category I set goals in is the relationship category. So I actually got married at the end of January, and we kind of got two pieces of advice, which was to go on weekly date nights and to have some sort of a monthly check-in with each other. So I decided to set these as actual goals and intentions for the year, especially since it was our first year of marriage, and so I just wanted to make sure that we prioritized each other throughout the year, and we didn't kind of let that fall off the wagon. So what I ended up finding is that this weekly date night started to become something that I was just kind of trying to check off. So we get to the end of the week and I'd be like, oh, we went to the mall on Saturday, I'll count that as our date night. And it wasn't something that we were planning out. It was just, what can I say out of the things that we did together this week that I'm just gonna call a date night? And I don't really think that was the intention and the purpose behind the advice that people were giving us. So we're gonna kind of reevaluate this one going into next year. I still think that it's definitely important that we keep up with date nights, but I think we kind of need to figure out how to make it a little more intentional. So I'll talk about that a little more in the 2024 goals. And then the second one was the monthly check-ins. What we ended up doing, I think the past like 2 to 3 months, is picking specific topics that are specific to our relationship. We didn't do this every single month this year. I did check this off because it took a bit of trial and error to really figure out what was best for us. And I think that we have that now, and so I'm probably gonna carry this one into next year to just kind of continue improving upon and make sure that we really build it into a habit. So now I have my health goals. So I really only had one major health goal this year, and that was to run in a 5K race. So we ended up actually doing that in September of this past year, and I was super proud of myself for hitting that milestone, not only actually training for it, but also just the fact that I did go out of my comfort zone and sign us up, and it ended up being a lot more fun than I expected. So I'm checking this one off, but I'm also carrying this one into 2024. And then lastly, we have our fun goals. So for this year, we had our honeymoon in Italy. So that actually happened in February of this year. And then the other fun goals that we had were to go to 2 concerts this year. We ended up going to the Taylor Swift concert over the summer, and then we haven't hit our second concert yet, but that's actually part of sort of what we want to do as far as like Christmas traditions. We're going to the Trans-Siberian Orchestra concert by the time this video goes up, we'll have like just done it last weekend, but right now it's coming up next weekend. But that's something that we did last year, and it's one of my husband's favorite concerts, and it was such a great time, and it's not that expensive to go to their concert. So we're hoping to keep this up and kind of make it a Christmas tradition that each year we go. So very excited about that one. Okay, so now that we've looked back on 2023, let's talk about 2024 and goal setting. So one thing that I do every year is I like to set a intention or a focus area for that specific year. I like to kind of brain dump and write down all of my goals and then categorize them. into different areas of my life. And then what I do after that is I pick an area of life that I want to set as my intention or my focus area for the following year. So usually I'll do this just kind of based on, okay, now that once I did that brain dump, and that was just sort of like everything that's on my mind that I want to do in the upcoming year, was there a specific area that stood out where I had a lot of goals in, a lot of ideas in, and could that be my focus area, because that's the area that I'm sort of naturally gravitating towards, and when you put more goals in a specific area, you're just naturally going to focus on that more. It helps me when I'm thinking about, okay, I'm going to split up my time and energy into these goals, but then there's also the day-to-day life that you don't want to slip through the cracks, right? You want to spend time with your loved one, you have work, you have social obligations, like there are just things in your day-to-day that take up a good portion of your time and your energy. And so not all of your time and energy can go into these specific goals you set at the beginning of the year. These are the things that like I need to do to just kind of keep up with life. And then with that time that I have left over, so let's say I have 30% of my time left over, I might not say, okay, I want to spend, 5% on each goal. I would probably say I want to spend 20% on this focus area of goals. And then these other goals, I'll just kind of fit in with that other 10%. And that way I know that by the end of the year, I'm going to accomplish the big things and the things that really matter to me. And the goals that I might not get to, I'm going to look at and say, okay, it's not that big of a deal that I didn't hit that. So I highly recommend setting an intention or a focus area. That way your mind isn't sort of being pulled in all these different directions, and you don't feel like you have to accomplish a goal in every area of your life. So with that being said, my intention for 2024 is to focus on building and nurturing the relationships in my life. So that includes my marriage, my relationship with my family members, and my relationship with new and old friends. Okay, so with that being said, let's go through my goals for 2024. So we'll start with my finance goals. I'm carrying this goal over from 2023, which is to continue to save up for a down payment. So like I said, we ended up saving close to 30 grand this year, and I'd like to double that in 2024. So by the end of 2024, I'd like to have 60 grand in our savings to be able to put as a down payment for a house. So we're not necessarily looking to purchase a house in 2024, but as we sort of keep an eye on the market and we just kind of casually look, I want us to be in a good place at the end of next year going into 2025 to be able to purchase a house if we find one that we love that's within our budget. And my second finance goal is actually to invest. So what I'm looking to do is put $100 into investing each month for a total of $1,200 invested by the end of the year. I know this isn't a ton of money, but since I'm new to investing, I kind of want to go about it gradually and build up slowly over time. So I talked about this a little bit in my past video on whether or not money can buy happiness. I touched on the fact that I tend to be someone who's a little more risk adverse when it comes to my finances. And so that's something that I want to work on and just kind of pull myself out of my comfort zone on. And then for career goals or YouTube related, so I know that we don't always have control over, when people subscribe to the channel, but I think it's helpful, especially since we're new, setting small goals for ourselves. I'm hoping if we can steadily keep up with 100 new subscribers each month, that we could potentially get to 1,000 subscribers in July. So if you like this video, then definitely subscribe and help us get to that point so we can continue making content for y'all. So my next goal is in spiritual development. The main goal is that I want to build up my tithe. So if you don't know what that is, a tithe is 10% of your income that you give back to the church as a way of giving back to God and focusing your life on Him. And when you focus your life on Him, you're also focusing your finances on Him. So this is just a way to ensure that all aspects of my life are lined up with God's plan for me. So this is kind of a financial goal as well as a spiritual goal. So when I was building out my finances, I kept in mind that I was looking to slowly grow my tithe as well, which did kind of minimize the amount that I can put towards investing, but I see this as an investment in myself, my church, and my spiritual well-being. So then the next category is relationships. And like I set this as my focus area for this year. Definitely going to take up a good amount of my extra free time, and that's why I wanted to make it a focus area. So for my marriage goals, I'm continuing with the goals that I set in 2023. So instead of doing weekly date nights, we're going to be looking to do monthly date nights. Like I said, we spend a lot of time with each other throughout the week, but these will be more, we're intentionally planning something and setting time aside to do something new with each other. And then with the monthly check-ins, like I said earlier, I'm just going to be kind of carrying on what the process that we determined works this past year, and then making sure to build that out as a habit and as something that we're doing regularly, and then continue to track, like, is it actually providing a benefit to us, or do we need to make adjustments? So then for family goals, I live in a completely different state from the rest of my family. So what I really wanted to prioritize here was just making sure that I carve out time to call home, but also to talk with family members that I don't regularly talk to, as well as with my grandpa. So my grandpa's 95, and I put that as a separate goal to just make sure that I carve out time on a weekly basis to call and chit chat with him. And then for friend goals, I have a lot of friends that live out of state, so I'm thinking planning at least one sort of monthly friend get together. I also want to focus on building the relationships I have in the area that I'm in. So I have some friendships that are kind of newer. I'd like to focus on really building those out and creating deeper bonds with the people in my area, as well as continuing to nurture those bonds that I have with my close friends who live in other places. And then for health goals, I put 2 here. So the first one is kind of a continuation from 2023. So like I said, I did run in a 5K race. The only thing is I wasn't able to run fully through the whole thing without any stops. So there were a couple points where I had to take a breather and just kind of like walk for a bit, which is totally fine. I just want to push myself to get to a point where I can run a 5K nonstop through the whole thing. I also want to focus on getting more steps in. So right now I don't currently track my walking steps, but I did get a walking pad for my birthday, and so I want to focus on using that on a regular basis, and also taking walks kind of in my neighborhood, taking longer walks with my dogs. I was also thinking that this can be something that I involve family and friends in, so I can spend time kind of calling people when I go on walks, or I can ask friends who are local to take walks with me. So this is a goal that will not only help improve my health and help my endurance, but also help me to carve out time specifically to spend time with other people. And rounding off with fun goals, we have a couple of trips that are already in the works for this year. So we're planning a road trip to North Carolina and South Carolina in kind of springtime. Also planning for our 1-year anniversary. So our anniversary is at the end of January, but we haven't decided whether or not we're gonna do something as a trip at some point through the year as well. So just kind of want to figure out exactly what we're doing for that. And then I have another trip planned for Miami in October that I haven't started actually planning or saving for at all yet. So I want to make sure that I keep that as a goal in my mind. So I hope you liked my wrap up of 2023 and planning for 2024. It was really fun to kind of go through and plan out all of my goals and share that with you guys. So I'd love to hear, what are some of your goals for 2024? Drop them in the comments below. Hopefully we can all work together and inspire each other to have a really great 2024 and accomplish all of our goals. So with that, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.